Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for joining us. We are already experiencing high temperatures and it's not even officially summer. But experts are already warning you should brace for a hot, stormy and smoky season. Pratyush Thayal reports.
Extreme heat, thunderstorms and wildfire smoke. That's all part of this year's summer forecast. Environment Canada is forecasting a warmer, wetter summer, and that's also the prediction from the Weather Network.
An above normal temperature story for this summer coming up. And one of the biggest features we're going to be seeing this summer is something that's called a heat dome.
Modestino says those heat domes will also bring thunderstorms.
The top three weather hazards that we need to be concerned about in Windsor and Essex counties are flooding, extreme heat, and wildfire smoke.
According to the Intact Centre on Climate Adaptation at the University of Waterloo, the number of hot days of above 30 degrees Celsius has been increasing in Windsor, Essex. It used to be 20 days between 1990 and 2000. It has increased to 25 to 30 days between 2020 and 2025. We're projected to get 3 straight months of over 30-degree days by 2100. There are ways to beat the heat. Met suggest planting trees around home or bringing plants onto a balcony for a cooling effect. Installing exterior awnings on windows and blinds or heat-resistant curtains can help too. Mets advises to avoid fans during extreme heat and instead use air conditioning if you have it. As wildfires continue to rage in Western Canada, parts of Ontario are seeing hazy skies. Fine particles that are roughly 30 times smaller than the diameter of a human hair can affect the lungs and heart. Mets advises residents to stay indoors as much as possible if there's a warning for wildfire smoke, and to seal your home and to use an air purifier. If you need to go outside, wear a well-fitted respirator like an N95 mask. But all this often comes at a cost, like a high hydro bill for running your AC more. But there's relief with Keep the Heat. It's a Windsor-based program that helps low-income families pay a portion of the utility bills, up to $800. Last year, they served almost 1,200 households, a 25% increase from the previous year. This year, they're anticipating more.
I think there will be more people, and that's one of the reasons why we have reduced the amount, the cap from 1,000 to 800, because we're hoping that we'll be able to service more.
Pratyush Thayal, CBC News, Windsor.
This time of year also brings about another issue in communities like ours, one that the local health unit is hoping to get ahead of. CBC's Dawson Chen explains.
It's a warm, sunny day, ideal for outdoor activity, or touching grass, as the kids say. But something could be lurking out there, something with 8 legs and a desire to gorge itself with your blood. I'm talking about ticks. The black-legged ones, which carry Lyme disease, are known to be living in Windsor, Essex, and the health unit warns they could be thriving.
The community is well aware that there's been a significant increase of ticks and Lyme disease in Windsor, Essex County.
According to Elaine Bennett, manager of environmental health with the Windsor Essex County Health Unit, there were 17 cases of Lyme disease in our region last year, a new record. The previous local record was 11 cases in 2022. A typical year has less than 10. Windsor Essex is one of the risk areas for black-legged ticks in Ontario. The health unit has begun its tick surveillance program for the season. Staff will be dragging collection sheets in 4 local park areas, including Malden Park and the Devonwood Conservation Area. They'll be looking for tick larvae and nymphs. Adult ticks aren't prevalent until the fall. Public Health Inspector Anna Klemenko says detecting ticks requires a close eye.
They look like small black sesame seeds, almost in size. If they are embedded long enough, they start drawing blood and they would get engorged.
Preventing tick bites is simple, if a little inconvenient. If you're going to be in an outdoorsy area, wear long sleeves, long pants, and closed footwear, no matter the temperature. The health unit also recommends taking a shower within 2 hours of outdoor activity.
Hiking, walking on trails, even landscape work. And even doing work in your own backyard, because the ticks are commonly found in wooded areas, in tall grass, and in shrubs.
Malden Park walker Nancy McCabe says all this tick talk makes her nervous, but not nervous enough to keep her from her daily exercise.
I try to stay on the path. Unless I'm biking, I usually don't stray from the path. It is a concern because who wants to get Lyme's disease, right? scary stuff.
If you find a tick, the health unit advises you to visit etick.ca. The federally funded website has information about tick identification and removal, as well as a platform to submit photo and video evidence of your specimens. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
Colette Kennedy joins us now for our first look at weather. Colette, you've been tracking a lot for us, smoke and heat. How's it looking now?
Yeah, we've got it all, don't we? Yeah, the heat definitely in place here, 30 degrees. And, you know, that ridge of high pressure, which, yes, can trap some of that smoke, at least in our upper atmosphere. And then right back here to the west, that's a cold front that's going to come in and kind of change our weather pattern. But we have one more mild day, and yes, a little more humid even than today. Overnight tonight, 20 degrees, still breezy, not quite as breezy as it is now in this evening. And then tomorrow, how about 31, feeling like 34, and then things change, and I'll have all the details and on the smoke forecast coming up.
Sounds good. Thanks, Colette. And speaking of smoke, wildfires in Saskatchewan continue to force more people out of their homes. Residents evacuating from the La Ronge area spent Monday night driving through hazardous conditions. And in other parts of the province, fires are now entering communities and damaging structures. CBC's Alexander Silberman reports.
Fast-moving flames have forced more than 7,000 people in the La Ronge area to flee their homes, the latest community in Saskatchewan under an evacuation order. High winds pushed wildfire dangerously close to the community Monday, with flames breaching the airport about 6 kilometers from town. Residents of La Ronge, Air Ronge, the Lac La Ronge Reserve, and anywhere within a 20-kilometer radius were ordered to evacuate late Monday afternoon.
Holy
Hundreds of cars have been traveling down the main road out of town under hazardous conditions. Fire burning on both sides of the highway. Heavy wildfire smoke and limited to zero visibility is making the evacuation slow. The province says vehicles are being escorted through, only when safe to do so.
There was fire burning on both sides of the road, and to me, that's too close for comfort.
Adding to the chaos, limited gas and widespread phone and internet outages. And with the airport closed due to heavy smoke and fire, patients at the local hospital had to be taken out by ambulance instead of by plane. In Saskatchewan's northeast, more people have been forced to leave Denair Beach. The final remaining firefighters and all essential staff were evacuated yesterday. The southern half of the community has burned to the ground as neighbors watched from afar.
We shared video camera footage from our cameras of our houses until each one sequentially lit on fire.
Thousands of evacuees are arriving here in Prince Albert in search of help and a place to stay. This hotel is where tired and relieved evacuees from La Ronge are arriving to register with the Red Cross. But accommodations are quickly filling up, and many are driving hours south in search of a place to stay. The province is now looking to Alberta, hoping evacuees might be able to go there. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Prince Albert, Saskatchewan.
Smoke from all the western wildfires is traveling far and wide. It's heading east across Canada and stretching down to the southern United States. And that's creating a lot of haze that brings significant health hazards with it. Allison Northcott explains.
This was how thick the smoke was on the Opaskwayak Cree Nation in northern Manitoba Sunday.
The smoke was so bad, you know, you could barely see 200 yards, and you know, most of the people that were working outside were coughing, and they were complaining about, you know, feeling short of breath.
The community's leadership helped people at risk, seniors and those with health problems like asthma, leave the community to escape the smoke.
We had them go to Winnipeg, you know, where it's a little bit, you know, less smoky, we hope, but we hear it's down there too.
There have been air quality alerts across several parts of the country, with wildfire smoke also spilling into the U.S.
It's sure smoky in Minnesota today.
Those aren't clouds, that's Canadian smoke.
Breathing smoky air is more than just uncomfortable. It can be risky.
The particles that you breathe in, they get into your lungs, they get into your bloodstream. and they cause both risks to your heart health, but also your respiratory health.
That's particularly true for people who have underlying health conditions, and the risk can be compounded over time.
As these wildfires are happening more frequently, they're happening longer, we're actually seeing risks like certain types of cancer, so brain cancer, longer-term cardiovascular impacts that are coming from repeated exposures to wildfires.
But there are things you can do to lower your exposure.
Head inside, keep your windows and doors closed as much as possible, and then you need to filter those fine particles from the smoke.
And if you do go out on a smoky day, experts suggest wearing an N95 mask. Health Canada says people should also keep an eye on the Air Quality Health Index online to know when the air quality is a health risk. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
On a different note, if you were outside last Friday afternoon, you may have heard the rumble of some very loud airplane engines. Also an impressive sight with an older style aircraft flying in circles around the city. But it was no ordinary plane. Check it out.
Hi, I'm John Robinson, president at the Canadian Aviation Museum. And today we'll be talking about a Hawker Siddeley HS 748. So this aircraft would have gotten into gravel strips, very short strips, and that's the big thing about this airplane. It was capable of doing those kind of runs, heavy loads, and be able to get into inaccessible places that you couldn't get into by vehicle. Air Quebec was decommissioning this aircraft, and they were looking for a museum home to house it. And it was in very short order. This was on last Tuesday, and the last Friday they just flew the airplane in for us. This is a 1975 HS 748. It was originally in Germany, then went off to Sweden, and Air Quebec picked it up, and it was in cargo configuration, and they took it over, and they've been using it for a good number of years as one of their heavy haulers. Used to bring in supplies to all the First Nations up in the northern part of Canada. This is the last one in actually the Western Hemisphere to have flown. So last Friday was its very, very last flight. One of the things that we do whenever a new aircraft is commissioned into an airport or it's being decommissioned, we do a kind of a salute. Fire trucks on either side and give them the arch of, a salute, a water salute, which they did. From all our posts and from our comments that we hear from people, they were very, very pleased that it got a home and that it's here with us.
Autonomous robots are hitting the sidewalks of a Toronto area community. They're delivering orders for the food app Skip, formerly Skip the Dishes. It's part of a 3-month pilot project with a robotics company. Michelle Song has more on how it works.
It's got wheels, a display with facial expressions, a cooler, and it could deliver your next food order.
So we're going to place an order for some croissants.
Food delivery app Skip partnered with Waterloo-based robotics company Real Life Robotics to launch a 3-month pilot project in downtown Markham, giving their customers in the area the option to choose the spot as its form of delivery.
If you're within this 2-kilometer radius, you'll get access to getting the choice of your order being delivered by a robot.
So it's basically a cooler with wheels.
The pilot was approved by the city of Markham, and it aims to further understand how these robots could navigate urban spaces. It drives on sidewalks, and it's accompanied by a human guide. When asked if the robots could become a hazard for pedestrians,
So the robots are equipped with a suite of sensors that give them a high degree of spatial awareness, so they know where they are in the world and what's around them and obstacles and that sort of thing.
They should be able to classify in real time whether this pedestrian is, walking alone or walking with someone. Those sort of things are something that need to be, built into these perception systems.
this expert says robots like these are the future, and it's important to be proactive and think about how to regulate this technology.
We should be making sure that the lessons learned from one pilot, they are translated into bigger and more sustainable sort of solutions.
Both Skip and Real Life Robotics say they've had hundreds of successful orders so far, and it hopes to eventually expand the use of these robots into cities across Canada in the next few years, alongside its human couriers. Michelle Song, CBC News, Toronto.
When we come back, a new proposal to tighten Canada's border. Stay with us. Welcome back. The White House says U.S. President Trump will double tariffs for steel and aluminum starting Wednesday.
Steel and aluminum tariffs will be going to 50%. He made that announcement in Pennsylvania, and he plans to deliver on that promise to Pennsylvanians.
Trump had announced his plan to increase import duties to 50% at a U.S. steel plant on Friday. In March, the U.S. imposed 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. A steep 50% hike could hurt industries and consumers on both sides of the border, with prices going up for big-ticket purchases like cars, washing machines, and even homes. An Ontario court has approved Canadian Tire's purchase of Hudson's Bay trademarks. The $30 million deal will give Canadian Tire the rights to the Bay name and its coat of arms and iconic stripes. The deal also includes the Bay's distinctly home brand, its Hudson North apparel line, and trademarks like Bay Days. Canadian Tire beat out a dozen other bidders. The approval comes months after Canada's oldest company filed for creditor protection and 2 days after it closed all 96 of its stores nationwide. We've been telling you about those wildfires out west. So to get a true scale of all the smoke from wildfires burning across Western Canada, we have to look from space. This here is a time lapse of satellite images from May 31st to June 2nd. That black line going across the screen is the Canadian-US border. And just right of center, you can see the Great Lakes. Gray smoke can be seen wafting south over North Dakota, Minnesota, and slowly drifting toward the east coast. There are more than 55 active fires burning in Alberta, 18 wildfires in Saskatchewan, and 25 in Manitoba, with thousands of Canadians displaced from their homes. Turning now to the Middle East. The UN is demanding an investigation into another deadly incident involving an aid distribution site in southern Gaza. Palestinian authorities and witnesses say Israeli forces fired on civilians. Local health officials are reporting at least 27 were killed, and it is the third deadly incident involving people heading to aid sites in as many days. CBC's Tom Perry reports from Jerusalem.
A large crowd of Palestinians had gathered near this site that's run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. That's the organization that's backed by the U.S., backed by Israel. It's kind of displaced the United Nations as the lead agency distributing food in southern Gaza. So this large crowd had gathered early this morning. It was going to advance toward the site where the aid is given out. But eyewitnesses, people we've heard from, say that they came under fire from Israeli troops who control that area. Now, the Israel Defense Force, the IDF, put out a statement today saying that its troops in that area saw what they call suspects who were outside the approved zone, the approved area where people could go to advance to get this food aid. They say that they fired warning shots, and that when these suspects kept moving toward Israeli positions, they opened fire. Now, they describe this as a few suspects, but we're talking about more than 24 dead here and many, many more injured. So this is more than a few people who were involved. And again, this is not the first time that this happened. On Sunday, 31 people were killed near the same area when they were lining up to go to get food aid. Now, the Israeli military, the Israeli government has vehemently denied being involved in that incident on Sunday. It actually released video, but it's claiming to show masked gunmen near Han Yunis firing on Palestinians who had been gathering looted aid. But we did hear today from the United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres. He's calling for an independent investigation into what happened on Sunday. He says whoever was involved, whoever was responsible, needs to be brought to justice. That garnered a blistering response today from Israel's foreign ministry. It says that Guterres didn't call out Hamas in his statement and actually called the statement by the Secretary General a disgrace. So a very angry message there going toward the UN Secretary General coming from the government of Israel. Tom Perry, CBC News, Jerusalem.
And apologies, we were unable to share that story with you about that proposed bill to strengthen Canada's border, but for that, you can just go to our website. Stay with us. Colette will be here right after the break. Colette Kennedy is back now for more on weather. Colette, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but I know you can dig in deeper now about the heat and also about the air quality. So tell us all about it.
Yeah, I know it's the kind of thing that people, certainly if you have any kind of respiratory issues or someone in your family or, very young ones that you might be concerned about it. And what we're finding right now, we get the hazy skies, which are particularly noticeable at sunrise and at sunset because of the smoke being in the upper atmosphere. So at this time anyway, it's not really clear or closer to the surface to be causing an air quality issue. And so the forecast for tomorrow is that our air quality is a 4. Now that is moderate, but it's on the low end of moderate, okay? So potentially it's all right. We might get a little bit of push of a bit more smoke kind of mixing down ahead of that cold front, but for now, this is the forecast here. You do have to remember though, with that sun, even if it gets the hazy appearance, it's still making its way through that UV, so 9 and very high. Here's all that heat that we are sitting in, kind of finally, some might say, and some of that cooler air. Still winds, still not enough rain for the wildfire situation in the prairies. However, at least some cooler temperatures behind that front, and that's what's going to happen with our temperatures. They'll reset a little bit, not tomorrow. It's still very warm tomorrow. We got another day of this. 30 degrees right now, a little bit of humidity, so it feels like 33. We'll have a little more humidity tomorrow, so maybe we'll get that heat index 34, 35 in terms of the feel-like conditions. It's been a little breezy here through the afternoon and early evening, and that will carry on as we move through the evening and at least early overnight hours into tomorrow morning. So still some breezier conditions until the front goes through, and then those winds will drop off and also obviously shift around more towards the north and not that southwesterly flow. Dry tonight, but the action is ahead of this front. So the timing on this as we go through tomorrow, we start off dry, warm, a little more humid. Into the afternoon, we could start seeing things or feeling things bubbling up, okay? So a few thunderstorms isolated at first and then perhaps aligning a little better and some heavier rains then overnight Wednesday into early Thursday. So it does linger a little bit into early Thursday, then clears out for Thursday afternoon, and then Friday we have some instability nearby once again, Thursday night into Friday, so we could have some showers kind of pass through again. Overnight temperatures very mild, high teens to around 20. There you go tomorrow, 31, still breezy at least early part of the day, and then we come back to seasonal for Thursday, and we don't do too badly, really quite comfortable through the rest of the week and the weekend.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Colette. Thanks everyone for watching. See you tomorrow.
Good night.